I would like to argue that according to Mr. Buechler's account of how Disney needing ESG money and DEI money in order
it's not money that they get. They don't get money. It's part of a credit social score.
Yeah, credit as in a line of credit, like a credit card. Where
they're all in debt. They don't have any money.
It's still money.
They're swimming in debt right now.
They still, because they have to pay back the credit, but the credit is money.
No, it's not. That's not exactly how it works. How it works is it's investment capital. So the investors can pull their capital at any time. It's not a line of credit. So they're not extending a line of credit. They're investing in the company, but they're saying we can pull back and divest in your company if you don't meet these metrics, which is why Disney is number 2. Right. They're ranked number 2 in terms of ESG because BlackRock was very specific about that.
Okay, I stand corrected, Mr. Mindset. But anyway, my point being is, how is that considered activism when it sounds more like the bankers and the investment firms are more of the activists versus, say, the people? If you're being told that you have to put these
if you're being told
are you making a I was just following orders argument?
I'm making if you're being extorted by investment firms to use in order to gain a line of credit, wouldn't you most likely be compliant to?
If it's
in 1946, we hang those people. So that's all I'm going to say. That's our legal precedent.
I'm making a more of a
the point is that they're not under duress. They have a choice. They can choose to not take that investment money. It's very important. It's not, if it was a line of credit, there might actually be a condition. They can choose to have real investors. They can choose to be invested in by real Americans. In fact, real Americans, for the first time ever, lowest numbers in history, are choosing to voluntarily divest themselves in Disney by not going to their parks. For the first time ever, Magic Kingdom is empty on a holiday weekend. This is because people are divesting because they decided, Disney made a choice. They made a choice in DEI, they made a choice in Chinese money over the people of America. And now they're having to deal with that choice.
Aren't the investment firms offering them more money or I should say more capital to invest in their company?
That's what they believe. That's what they believe. I would argue that it is not more money in the long run, particularly when you consider all the sources of income that Disney's missing out on. Let's just talk about Star Wars, because obviously I don't want to get off topic. And the scope here is Star Wars. I won't focus on Marvel or Pixar or anything else. But the merchandise. Let's just talk about the merchandise. How much merchandise has the sequel trilogy sold?
I don't have those official numbers. That's the thing that Lucasfilm would actually have.
It probably can't pay a month of my rent.
That's not a fair comparison, because who plays with toys anymore? All right, it's all video games.
Oh no, excuse me, Sam. I believe the toys are played with by the adult children in your law office. I believe that's the people playing.
You would think I have.
I think they did put in an order for some Disney years.
I have a final comment. There's a complaint throughout this case how the original trilogy members were not together during the sequel trilogy. And I have Marvel Comic 93 of Star Wars. And when I went back and I looked at the comics, you see that in these really neat stories, like here in the Marvel comic, that the original trilogy members are together in these stories quite a bit. So I would ask Mr. Buechler, do you think that throughout the years, so many times we saw the original trilogy members together, do you think there was a chance to do something different? I know that you said that they wanted to slow roll them out, but would you entertain this at all, that we had them together in so many stories? I'm just curious in your response. Thank you.
Well, not everybody's read the comics. They're really good. Highly recommend them. But when you go through the trouble of signing Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, getting him back to a role he just didn't want to get back to, and getting Leia back in there. Why am I blanking on her name? Jesus Christ.
Carrie Fisher.
Dude, having stroke is just bad for you. Getting them under contract and then not putting them in a scene together, and that's just the basic thing. They should have been in all 3 movies together all the time, or maybe split up for one movie and then back together in the 3rd movie, but they couldn't even put them in a scene together. Have we seen them too much? No. Why did The Force Awakens do so well? It was on the promise that you're going to see Han, Luke, and Leia again. And you saw a little bit of Leia when Carrie Fisher could act. You saw Han Solo kind of fucking lazy his way through that horribly written role. And Mark Hamill didn't say a damn thing until the end. That is one of the worst creative decisions in the history of Hollywood. There is no excuse for that other than money, politics, corporate politics, and yes, horrible decision making by a terrible leader. And
Objection.
Yes, what do you think about Bruce? Real quick, Carrie Fisher died, Gary, and it don't you think that kind of changed their plans? And Harrison Ford had been lobbying for 30 years to behind the scenes for them to kill Han Solo. So don't you think
Harrison
if
Ford.
we didn't see
Screw Harrison Ford. He doesn't get to make that decision.
He has
over
influence. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
Over his character. And George didn't want that. They just had to. And if George was running Disney Star Wars or Star Wars at the time, I don't think he would have let him do that. George, you're here. Would you have let him killed Han Solo?
Not for the amount of money we were paying him.
There you go.
Objection.
Wait, George, you would have never killed Han Solo? Wait, George, one more question. George, would you have ever killed Han Solo? Ever? At what point did you kill him?
Look, he lobbied to be killed off in Return of the Jedi, and I thought that was a bad idea then, and I think it was a bad idea later on.
Well, you had to have thought in your mind coming up. Did you ever foresee an end? What was your end for Han Solo's story, George?
Well, again, I'm not going to share that unless I'm paid to share it, because that's a valid story idea. Hey, everyone can't talk at the same time. That's how this works badly.
Is that how it works?
It does.
No idea for the ending. Perhaps for the right price, we will find out what the actual.
All I can say is that the story that I was developing had the main characters from the original trilogy together, having an adventure, and then they turn it over to the young people.
Fair enough.
So,
thank you.
You're welcome.